Breaking news out of the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court just gutted a key section of the Voting Rights Act, which is going to pave the way for states across the country to attack black voters. Let's talk about it.
Now, the political party that thinks blacks and other minorities are too stupid to know how to vote are crying racism over this.
Their race to the bottom, that's the focus of tonight's angle. Well, it should surprise none of us. The same party that defended slavery in the 19th century and that gave us Jim Crow laws in the 20th century is still defending racial gerrymandering in the 21st century.
Today's decision by this illegitimate Supreme Court majority strikes a blow against the Voting Rights Act.
The conservative majority on the Supreme Court took another step towards resurrecting the Jim Crow South.
It is an attack on a crown jewel of our democracy.
Of course, Jeffries and company never miss an opportunity to inflame tensions by misstating the facts, and in this case, the law. This ruling was decades overdue. The Supreme Court significantly and properly narrowed the obscene practice of using race to draw congressional districts.
Tell me about what happened.
Well, some think that the ruling can create more Republican-held congressional seats in the South.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's the kind of ruling I like.
This ruling is a win, I think we can say, for Republicans. And it also, I think, will call into question about a dozen or so existing majority-minority districts, mostly in the South.
This is huge for the control of Congress, could lead to an additional 19 House seats for Republicans. More on that in a moment, because today's case involved Louisiana's move to create a new legislative district, and it was done in response to a lower court's ruling that the old map that was in place in Louisiana had somehow violated what's called Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act. So back in 2022, to comply with this lower court order, Louisiana created a new majority black district. Well, Chief Justice Roberts described that new district as looking like shape-wise like a snake that stretched from 200 miles to link parts of Shreveport, Alexandria, Lafayette, all the way to Baton Rouge. It was insane. So this was a 6-3 majority opinion. Justice Alito wrote it, saying that allowing race to play any part in government decision-making represents a departure from the constitutional rule that applies in almost every other context. Compliance with Section 2 thus could not justify the state's use of race-based redistricting here. The state's attempt to satisfy the lower court's ruling, although understandable, was an unconstitutional racial gerrymander. Of course, the king of racial arson, Al Sharpton, said the decision is a bullet in the heart of the voting rights movement. He said, "We'll fight in the streets and in the courts and in the halls of Congress until the right to vote is fully protected for every American."
And so I'm glad minorities like blacks and others are starting to wake up and realize that the Democrat Party has been screwing them for decades. Chuck Schumer keeps saying that this is Jim Crow 2.0 and an attempt to scare black people into thinking that we're going to go back to crazy laws like blacks and whites can't drink from the same water fountain, segregated seating, whites and blacks can't intermarry, and even blacks and whites can't even sit together and play cards at the same table. This assumption that we're going back to this kind of stuff simply because we want to make a playing field level and fair for everyone is completely ridiculous. And this is really all the Democrats have left in their playbook. It's just to scare and con people into voting for them because they don't have any policies that can come and bring people the benefits they need to thrive in their communities. There's nothing in this change that makes it so that anyone from any race or gender or anything cannot vote. As I said before, you just need to get an ID or prove a name change. This is all basic stuff that people should be able to have at their disposal. It doesn't cost that much money to go to your local records office and grab your birth certificate or keep your name changed if you're a woman and you've taken on your husband's name. The Dems just think that blacks and other minorities are too stupid to realize that they can go to the DMV or they can look online, or they can order their birth certificates or other pertinent documents that allows them to vote.
Look, for decades, the Democrats have tried to use this Section 2 of the 65 Voting Rights Act as a cudgel, not as a shield. And they did it to justify the creation of majority black or minority districts through this like weird redistricting process. And they claimed it was a general remedy for past discrimination and the need for more minority representation, as if skin color is determinative of voting patterns. To me, that's racist. But finally, the court interpreted the statute's protection to align more closely to its original meaning. Remember, Section 2 focused on the denial or abridgment of the right to vote, not to the right of a particular outcome. Think instead about like practices like poll taxes and literacy tests. Couldn't do that. An action by the state around voting can't result in less opportunity than other members of the electorate to participate. That's fair. And one factor, this is in Section 2, in this determination may be the extent to which minorities have been previously elected. But, this is important, in that statute, it adds that the Section 2 does not establish any right to proportional representation of any protected class. So look, what Democrats are really mad about here is that the racial gamesmanship is over. And when states are redrawing congressional lines in the future, they'll be able to do it by following county lines and just common sense geographical factors. These amoeba-like, snake-like districts that have been created by court order after these Section 2 challenges, they're likely going away.
And good thing too. What we need is, like she was saying here, like Laura Ingraham saying here, we need to have these districts drawn like counties so that there's as equal representation as possible, not snaking around to try to capture as many Democrat votes as possible. What we need here is we need both Republicans and Democrats to be challenged to provide services and plans and promises that they actually fulfill to help the American people, to help the people in their districts so that they can earn their positions and keep their positions by fulfilling these promises, working hard, and making it so that the communities benefit. Everyone benefits from this. But this truth really isn't coming through to some of the people on the left.
Breaking news out of the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court just gutted a key section of the Voting Rights Act, which is going to pave the way for states across the country to attack black voters. Let's talk about it. The Supreme Court struck down a majority black district in Louisiana, but this has impacts across the country. This is going to make it easier for states to discriminate against communities of color, draw unfair congressional maps, especially in the South. It's going to weaken the power of millions of black voters, and it'll also make it almost impossible to actually challenge racial gerrymandering in federal courts. Now, let's be so clear about why this matters, because it's not just about lines on a map. This is just another attempt at removing every tool we have to actually fight for our voting rights. As states like Florida and Mississippi are redrawing their congressional maps right now, the court's decision could actually erase up to 10 majority black seats across the country, all before the midterm elections that are happening in November. If you think this doesn't matter, think again, because every unfair map and every attempt to actually silence us as voters should just be another reminder of how powerful we are. Because if we didn't have power, they wouldn't go through all of this to try to take away our votes.
Yeah, actually, wow. No, it strikes down this racial gerrymandering, and blacks or anyone else aren't losing the power to vote. They can still vote just like anyone else, and their vote counts. One is one. It doesn't matter what race or ethnicity or anything it comes from. Okay, this is just a ridiculous assumption based from a victim mentality. This woman is definitely the perfect poster child for the Democrats. And well, it's just not working anymore. People are waking up. Now, here are the possible changes right here. And when you see these numbers, you'll see why the Democrats are pretty much screwed for the midterms already, unless something crazy and dramatic happens or the Republicans completely screw everything up. Like Laura Ingraham was saying, the Republicans here are poised to gain 19 seats, actually 12 to 19 seats in the House, whereas the Democrats, if they redraw as much as they can, which I don't know if it's possible, they've already gerrymandered the heck out of their states, they would be getting around 8 to 10 seats, and they'd still, but with all those counted up, they'd still be behind 4 to 9 seats, making it so that Republicans here can keep the majority in the House, and this would give them a total of 227 seats there, and a mere 208 seats for the Democrats. So the Democrats just can't win, and it's really by their own design. It was their choice to try to create these crazy maps and using race to do so. And it was only a matter of time before people realized, hey, this isn't the 1960s anymore. So we need to adjust accordingly.
That heavy sigh is necessary. Let's talk about it. This Supreme Court case, Louisiana versus Calais, 6-2 decision, which in my opinion effectively dismantles, guts Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act, which simply put helps to create and protect Black majority districts, which give us as Black voters the opportunity to pick representatives of our choice. They have effectively dismantled that. And in doing so, they have attacked Black political power. We stand to lose 25 to 40% of congressional Black caucus because of this decision. And especially in the South, where majority of Black Americans live, we are looking at losing so many seats. And even if you don't live in a seat in a district with a CBC rep, we all benefit from the advocacy they do for Black American issues, the advocacy for poor people or other marginalized groups. We all benefit from that. And so if we lose those numbers in Congress, we are going to see the impact. And who replaces them will not be fighting for these issues.
You can still pick your representatives of choice. You can yourself be the representative of your choice if you don't feel like you have a voice. You can run for office. You can petition, you can get people to support you, and you can get these positions where you can change laws. There's well over 10,000 Black people in Congress and in other positions of lawmaking capabilities. So it's not impossible. What laws are on the books that would not allow a Black person or anyone else, any other person of color, to vote? For everyone to have equal voices, race must be taken out of it. These so-called Black benefits or Hispanic benefits or Asian, whatever. Everyone benefits from having affordable food, healthcare, job opportunity to invest, opportunity to leave something to your kids. That's not a race issue. And that's why these archaic race-based decisions, race-based thinking has to end. And to conclude on just how far gone some of these people are, I'm going to leave you with this woman here. This is what closing yourself into a box gets you. She's so far gone, she's practically on the brink of becoming a conspiracy theorist.
Okay, so this is a pretty important video. Please watch till the end. The Supreme Court today did something that they have been dying to do for decades, and it's devastating, particularly if you are a Black or brown American. They gutted the Voting Rights Act. 6-3, straight down ideological lines. Before I explain what it means, I need you to hear one thing clearly. The Voting Rights Act ended Jim Crow at the ballot box. It protected the premise of fair and equal elections. That is what the conservative majority on this Supreme Court just came for. This is a truly dark day in our democracy. Now, conservatives, of course, will dress this up in legal language. They'll call it equal protection or say they're being colorblind. Don't get pulled into the semantics debate trap. Here's what's actually happening. The GOP and the conservative majority on this court are attacking Black political power as a front to seize illegitimate control over all of us. When Black voters have power, we all get better healthcare, better schools, more accountability. When conservatives silence that, they are setting up a system where they can overrule all of us. Justice Kagan, in one of the most extraordinary acts of protest you will ever see from a Supreme Court justice, read her dissent out loud from the bench. That never happens. She called this ruling what it is, the completed demolition of the Voting Rights Act. The numbers are brutal. Analysts are saying that up to 19 congressional seats could be seized by 2028. This would decimate the congressional Black caucus. Nearly half of majority Black state legislative districts in the South could vanish. So this is not just a policy dispute, it is a power grab, and it is going to affect way more than just Black and brown voters, although obviously they are the ones hurt the most. Remember, step one is always sidelining Black political power, because when Black people show up, these people lose. If they can sideline that, they can overrule all of us. That's how it works. That's always been the plan, and they're not even pretending it's not anymore.